Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. And we also have a question from Sean this morning, who says, I have 2 Madison peach trees. I planted them 4 years ago. Can you give me some tips on pruning them? The fruit seems to come on later in the season than most other peach trees, so when would be the best time to prune?
Oh, shucks. I eat peaches. I don't know much about them. Now, I especially eat peaches this time of year, crop of the time. But, Sean, I'm afraid that I can't be too helpful. The fact that they flower later would indicate that you should probably prune, yes, you should prune in the fall, following the bloom, and peaches can get so prolific in a given tree as to weight it down, cause branch breakage, and so on. Not common. However, I would go into that plant and thin it out, back to what orchardists call scaffold branches. A peach tree, an apple, whatever, can have as few as 5 or 6, maybe 7 major branches, from which then all of the fruit-bearing tissue comes. You want those branches to be 18 inches apart, one above the other, and then pretend that you're looking down from the top. You want it to look like the hands on a clock, where the 5 branches are all headed out a different compass direction, so that you keep the plant open, so that it can get a lot of sun, and so on. The pruning, I don't know when orchardists get into that, but they prune for 2 things. One is to thin the crop so that it doesn't break down the trees, and by doing so, they'll get a bigger fruit than a whole bunch of little ones coming on. But the timing, I don't know how to be too specific on that. I think for spacing and so on, you could do it in this next month before it gets clear into bitter winter, or perhaps then again in the very early part of March. But I'm afraid that I don't know, never have grown a peach to any successful level. And even having grown up near Lake Erie, where peaches can be pretty productive, I've never paid any attention to when they do this pruning. I can tell you that to get that perfect peach so that you don't well, never mind. So you don't bite into something that's, just call it wormy. I know it takes several pesticide sprays during the early part of the season, at least, for fungal and insect problems. But I'm from this point, I don't know, Sean. Call your county extension agent. They may put you onto a fact sheet or the same nature of thing in the computer, and that'll be explained. But I just don't know offhand.
And Fred, this has been, I think, because of the nice spring we had, and then the ample rain during the summer. And at least in my yard, the apples are just they are so prolific, and I don't think the deer are too unhappy with me this year.
No,
they've been enjoying. I see a lot of half-eaten apples out in the yard.
Well, and interestingly enough, I was driving along beside a very large shopping center last night, and immediately across the road was a buck deer eating grass and browsing on the tissue of the shrubs and things that haven't been developed yet. So, yeah, Mother Nature is very interesting.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Howard and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com